Once you've created a page, I think the next thing you need to look at are the properties of the page. Now, there's two ways we can handle properties. We can handle them with HTML markup, or we can handle them with something we haven't gotten into yet called CSS, and that's cascading style sheets. Of the two, in most cases, not all, but in most cases, if you have a choice between running CSS style sheets or running markup, in most cases it's more efficient and easier to work with if you go CSS. Now, even though we haven't really talked about that yet, we're going to get into that in another lesson. I want to show you how you set all of this up. Before we do it though, I've got one more thing I have to do. I'm going to open up another folder and add it to our site. They're called tracing images. Let me explain this. We're working on this page right here. I know there's nothing on it yet, but there will be. We're running right now, as you can see this number right down here, it says 1021 by 652. That's how big that page is. Let's say our target audience is running a standard browser of 1024 by 768. Now what that means is, according to studies, the widest our page needs to be is 955 of that 1024 and height 600 of the 768. That guarantees something that's very important. It guarantees that the site will never have to be shifted and read left to right. Don't you ever give me a website that I have to shift left and right. I'll go up and down, but if you make me go left and right, I am not going to like you. Now, how did I come up with those numbers? Well, if you look down here, this button right here, if you click it, you actually have these different values, and there it is. If I'm running a target audience of 1024 by 768, then I need to go no further than 955 by 600. If I click that button, it changes the screen. So I can see that now. I can actually work it, but I don't like that because I need more room to work. I mean, I don't want to work right up to the edge. I need a little bit of playroom. So I pull it back out again, but now I don't really know if I'm within the boundary. Something called a tracing image, and that's why we have to go back and add something to our site. So I'm going to remove everything from the screen for a second through Magic, and here it is. They're called tracing images. I made these in Photoshop, all right? And actually, they're going to be in your work folder for this lesson if you want them. You've got all these different ones, and I'll talk about double and all that stuff later. But here's the 1024 by 768. That line is actually 955 by 600. How do we use these? Let's move them into our site. Let's actually pull them right up here into the site, and we're adding them to our site. Let's get back into our document. Okay, you'll notice there they are. Because we added them to the site, the files actually adds them here. If you don't see them, click this button right here, which refreshes the site, just in case they're not there. With that done, let's look at our properties. Now we can click the button right down here for page properties. Oh, we can go up to the word modify, do it from up there, doesn't matter. And here they are. Let's look at them one at a time. We have HTML and CSS appearances. Let's start with appearances CSS. Start with the first one, which is basically the page font. Now that's the default font for this particular web page. If we click here, you can see all the different options that we have. Understand that if somebody doesn't have the font and they load your page, they're going to substitute. I'd like to control the substitution. So you can say, well, okay, if they don't have Times New Roman, then you can go ahead and use Times. And if they don't have Times, at least use a serif font. You get the idea. We can make our own if you want to. If you want to choose default, that's fine. You want to change it bold, italic. This is just the default font when you begin typing. The size, of course, is right here. Let me get that smaller again. The text color by default is black. If you don't like black, click that button. Choose any color you want. You can always change it in the document. This is just the defaults, how you start. The background color, which is default to white. Don't like that, change it to something else. Background image. Let me just say something about this on a right brain side in a left brain program. If you use an image behind text, I don't care what you do. I don't care how you do it. I don't care what you do to modify it. It is still going to be more difficult to read the text. And you see this all the time on web pages. Images behind text. If you use one, I'm not against it. But if you use one, be absolutely sure that it fits the message of what you're trying to say. Otherwise, don't. Just use a color. The repeat is for the image. In other words, if you want it to repeat like a tile, do you want it to repeat vertically or horizontally or none? Just stamp it one time. It's up to you. Margins. I set my margins to 0, 0, 0, 0. Now, those by default are blank. The reason I do that is because all browsers have a slightly different definition of where the page starts. Does it start right here in the corner? Does it start here or down to here? The whole idea is I want to control that. So by putting the numbers in 0, and they're blank by default, you put the number 0, 0, 0, and you're telling every browser you want to start your page right up in that corner. That's important. Let's go to Appearances HTML. You'll see some of the same stuff. Now, what's the difference? CSS is for cascading style sheets. HTML is basically for markup, and it's implemented as HTML markup within the document itself. In most cases, CSS is better. Even though we're not yet working with CSS, it's fine. We're going to use it here because it is better. Your links, there's the colors and changes for links in CSS, including a linking font. And I like this one because I don't underline my links anymore. Basically, what I do is I change the color. By default, everybody sees underlining as a link, but it's beginning to change. I think it looks nicer on the page if there's not an underline. It's easier to read. If you change the color of the font, you got it. All right, that's my way of doing it. Again, that's my slant. Remember, my slant, not yours maybe. Headings, click this button right here. You'll notice we have a heading font. We have different heading styles from 1 to 6. Each one's a little bit smaller than the next by default. You can change actually what the sizes are based on what you want. And you can even change the color if you want to for each one of those. Title encoding gets us back into the document type that we talked about in a previous segment. XHTML 1.0 transitional is probably the most common one you're going to use. We can actually put our title up right here. You can also do it up here if you want to. And our Unicode normalization, and basically I would suggest leaving that alone for now. We'll worry about stuff like this a little bit later. The last one is why I added that folder for tracing images. I know that my pages need to fit into an area 1024 by 768, which actually translates into 955 by 600. I have a tracing image for that. So I'm going to click Browse, and it will take me right into my area right here, Tracing Images, and I'm going to go and use this one right here, which actually that line is 955 by 600. And I'll go ahead and click Choose, and there it is. Now if I click Apply, you can see it. That line will never ever be shown on the website. It never even gets transported through the process of sending it to the client site. It's only there for me when I'm working in Dreamweaver. And as you can see, these numbers, 1024 by 768, 955 by 600 is what that is. And what I want to do is pull that down a little bit. Not quite so bright on the screen. I use that simply as my border. Notice because I chose 0000, it starts right up in the corner. If I hadn't done that, it'd be down to about here. So I'm guaranteeing my page starts in the corner. I've got a border that I can work with to keep all of my elements within that area. I've set up my page properties. I'm ready to rock here. Click OK and start working.